Without further ado, I'll hand it over to Edie.
Thank you, Cheyenne. It's really a pleasure for me to be here. I love these Ask an Accountant series. And for those of you who haven't met me before, I am this weird combo of CPA and LCSW. I began my career as a public accountant, public auditor, and I learned quite a lot in looking at a variety of different companies in all different kinds of industries. But the passion was always to have my own private practice, and I am living the dream right now. So I do have my own full private practice that is a counseling business, and I'm a SimplePractice customer as well. So I am really doing exactly what you guys are doing as well. And I know firsthand how important it is to have an accounting system with your private practice in order for you to grow. So that's what we're really going to be covering today. Okay, so I'm just going to ask a series of questions because these are questions that I've asked myself and that many people have asked me. So what is my total cash available in my business right now? How much did I spend in continuing ed last year? How much have I taken out as personal draws this year? Who have I paid where I need to send them a 1099? Do I have enough money in my credit card to pay my credit card this month? How much did I earn in coaching versus my counseling services? And where's my receipt with that documentation? Hopefully, your accounting system can answer all of those questions. They should be able to answer all of those questions. Excel does not. So we're going to be talking a lot about what an accounting system can provide for you. So first, I usually start with something that's my pet peeve. So this is pet peeve number 642 in case you're keeping track. But I have a particular pet peeve when somebody says something, usually it's something that they're selling, hey, that is so much cheaper than therapy. That's my pet peeve because it's with the underlying message that you can get therapy level results for a cheaper price. So it's as if you're saying you're getting the same value that you would get if you met with a therapist for a cheaper price. I really, in my work with other therapists, I really encourage therapists to never devalue their services. And on the same respect, I also encourage accountants and all the accountants that I work with to never devalue their services as well. So the theme today is not going to be how to get the cheapest accounting system. The theme today is going to be what will an accounting system be able to do for me? I have been known to be the queen of questions. So I do love and appreciate questions, but I can tell from the way a question is asked of me, I can tell a few things behind the scenes of that question. So when people ask me, how can I get a really cheap accounting system? What that tells me is that they may not be aware of the value in investing in an accounting system. So it's possible, very possible, that what they equate with an accounting system, they don't know how that might benefit them during the year. And they just think, oh, accounting or bookkeeping, a bookkeeping system is just a way of giving the information to my tax preparer or for me to have at the end of the year to prepare taxes. But I have so much respect for what an accounting system can do for a business, not just for taxes, but for be able to grow your own business. So that's where I'm going to focus is what can this do for me to grow my private practice. All right, so I want to kind of go over some overall tips just so we're all on the same wavelength and page. So bookkeeping, it's not intuitive. It is not super easy. It's actually, many people devote a whole lot of time to learn bookkeeping system, and it's not something you can just easily expect of yourself. So don't expect that of yourself. Don't have such high expectations that, oh, I know other people that do it and I should be able to do it. Usually what I see is most business owners leave their bookkeeping to the very last minute. That last minute can mean the end of the year or April 14th before they have to file taxes. They're usually very tired when they decide to start doing their bookkeeping, and they're unable to dedicate the energy to the process. So my overall assumption, and what I work really hard to convince business owners, is you should be able to talk about the numbers in your business with current numbers. So if the only time that you're doing bookkeeping is at the end of the year for taxes, it's going to be tough for you to tell me how your business is doing currently in this year, right? So as many of you know, I'm a big proponent, both personal finances and in your business, is to track everything. Track how much time things take. Track how many calories you're consuming. Track how much sleep you get. I want you to track everything so that you really do know your numbers. Bookkeeping is year-round and not just for taxes. Okay, so I also want to encourage you to hire experts. Just like there are a lot of things out there that are for our mental health, right? There are a lot of tools out there that some people may say, oh, I've got these tools, I don't need therapy. But we know as therapists how valuable that therapy process is, how invaluable, I should say, it is. So we want to make sure we're hiring experts so that you have a strong support team. The reason people seek licensed therapists is due to our expertise and professionalism. And we are mandated reporters for many, many instances. It's the same with accountants. Accountants aren't mandated reporters in that respect, but we have a lot of mandates that we have to follow. We have to jump through a lot of hoops. We have to do a lot of due diligence. So many times people will say, hey, could you do my tax return? It's a really simple return. I don't think it'll take you much time. And the amount of time that it takes to actually do the tax return is not really the issue. The issue is how much due diligence we have to do to make sure what we are reporting is accurate. So, and you guys know your skills. You guys know what is in your wheelhouse and what is not. So when I say hire experts, I mean that if this is really not your cup of tea, make sure that you do have qualified staff or qualified consultant who knows what they're doing and who is accountable for what they do. I have 3 licenses. One is an enrolled agent license that says I can do tax returns. But my 2 licenses as a LCSW and as a CPA have to be renewed every 2 years. And because I live and work in California, I have really strict rules because California is very, very strict with their licensed professionals. So I just in June went through this 2-year renewal process. I completed over 300% of the amount of hours that I needed for social work hours, for my therapy hours, because I love this stuff so much. And I did 2 hours more than I had to do for accounting, because accounting hours in continuing ed, it's so very, very dry and so very, very boring. But with that, in California, you have to do a certain number of hours in different subjects. And because I do prepare people's financial statements, I had to do 8 hours of fraud continuing ed. So fraud is something that I'm very familiar with in terms of I have to do it every 2 years. But it's really fresh in my mind because I just went through, procrastinated on some of those hours, and it's really pretty fresh from last month. But those fraud hours were teaching me about a lot of case examples about people who commit fraud. And, this is your private financial information. So I want to really make sure that I'm very, very clear that you need to be super protective of your financial information. And we don't just hire the neighbor's daughter who took a finance class or an accounting class and wants to do some stuff. I mean, this is serious stuff. When I was an auditor, I was auditing a school, and I was looking at all of the records, and I found an error where this assistant had many hats on. She did a lot of different functions at the school, and bookkeeping was one of them. And she was in charge of payroll. And she decided that what she was earning was not accurate, that she needed to be making more money. So she gave herself a raise. And she could do that because she was in charge of payroll. So there was no documentation about, was this bookkeeper allowed to do that? Where was it showing that she had a raise? So I took it to the administration, and they, unbeknownst to me, they went and had a meeting with her. And what they decided was, yes, you really shouldn't have done that. That's basically fraud, which it was. And yet their resolution was to split the difference, and that she really did deserve a raise. So they gave her half in raise, and then half they said, no, that was really stealing. So when they came back to me to tell me what they did, I was like, oh my gosh, you mean she wasn't fired? You basically just gave her that incentive to, like, she stole from the company. You can't give yourself a raise. But that's what people who are doing the books, they have access to all of your information. I'm not saying this to scare you, but I am saying that we want to make sure that we've got solid systems in place, solid ways of making sure that you're not in jeopardy with your information that could be stolen. Okay, so we're going to talk about that, how that relates to free accounting systems too. So many people know that, like, I just had a birthday and a friend gave me this little purse, and on the outside of it, Joey from Friends is saying, how you doing? So that is my question, right? I hope that every single business owner, those who are in private practice, who have their own business, whether it be group practice or private practice, can you answer this question regarding your business of how your business is doing? Can you answer that question by just saying numbers? So how are you measuring the success of your business, your private practice? Okay, this is a slide that I included in my last presentation as Ask an Accountant, but I think it's really worth going over it again. People who prepare their books on Excel usually do not have a balance sheet, but a balance sheet is a really important statement to have. There are 3 statements that are important in accounting. It's income statement, cash flow statement, which is the least of the prepared statements, and a balance sheet. But really, the 2 are really important, the balance sheet and the income statement. So what is a balance sheet? A balance sheet is a summary, a picture in time. So it's usually stated like at the end of the month, at the end of a quarter, at the end of a year. So if we were to say a balance sheet, it would say balance sheet, and it would say as of, let's just say June 30th, because June 30th is the end of a quarter and the end of the month. And it would say a picture in time. It would be as if you're taking a financial picture on June 30th of what your assets, liabilities, and owner's equity are. And this is the main accounting formula. So assets equals liabilities plus owner's equity. Assets are what you own, liabilities are what you owe, and owner's equity is your net investment in your business. So what you own minus what you owe. Now for private practice, primarily, our assets are really going to be primarily our cash accounts. So our checking and savings accounts, maybe a money market account, but anything that we own, the cash that we own in the business, as well as any property. So if we have some high ticket items like computers and printers and office equipment, desks, all that stuff. If they're kind of high price items where we're going to be taking depreciation and allocating the cost over a certain number of years, then that also would be part of our assets. Our liabilities is a picture in time of how much we owe at that moment. So how much we owe on June 30th. If you have a credit card and you and you've incurred some expenses, but you haven't paid the bill yet for the June 30th bill, as of June 30th, your balance sheet will show some of the liabilities, some of the expenses that you've incurred that you've not yet paid for. Okay, so that's your liabilities. And then your shareholders' equity is your net investment in a business. So when we take out owner's draw, that is not something that goes on your income statement because that's not a deductible expense, but it keeps the balance sheet keeps track of how much you've taken out of your business throughout time. So why is the balance sheet important going forward? A balance sheet is really important going forward, especially if you think about what you want to do at the end of your business. Do you want to sell your business? And if so, your balance sheet is going to show you over time what your investment in this business has been. Okay, so let's get to some of your questions. What free accounting systems do you recommend? So I wanted to do my due diligence because anybody who's heard my talks before, you know I'm a QuickBooks only person, but I did want to be able to have some experience with a free accounting system. So I signed up for a free system with a company, and I'd prefer not to mention their name because there are lots of different accounting systems out there, and I didn't really fully do it. I didn't connect my bank account with them or anything like that, but I just started to play around with them. And I'll tell you about that in a second. But when I hear that an accounting system is offering something for free, my first question is why? What is in it for the company that they're offering a free system? Why? Why would you offer a free system? Because eventually you're not going to have a business if you only offer a free accounting system. So most companies that offer a free accounting system have other perks because they're offering you a service. So you have to like go through their advertising, or they may do data mining. I'll talk about that in a second. Or they might entice you to get their free program because you want to do a certain aspect and you can't because it doesn't come with, that feature doesn't come with the free system. So what is in it for the company? I always like to know people's motivations, especially when they're offering something free. And then especially after I just talked about how dangerous it is to have your accounting, your bookkeeping, your financial information vulnerable. Are they data mining your information? So who are they selling your information to? And pretty much they are going to say most free accounting systems, as are the paid systems, is you are buying into their system, but that's their system. So they get to do whatever they want with your data. And I'm sure that many of them have very many security controls, or nobody would really do it. But how much are they data mining? So I have a side gig where I organize people's memories and photos. And we're big on talking about our system as compared to other photo systems that do data mining. So what's data mining? Data mining is they get to review your photos because when you sign up with some of these services, they own your photos. So they get to look through your photos. Let's say they see a dog in some of your photos and the computer says, oh, they've got a dog. Why don't you sell their information to some pet stores so that they'll now send you some emails about from pet stores. So are the free accounting systems doing data mining? Are they selling your information? Now, just because you have a paid system doesn't mean you're in the free and clear that they're not doing data mining. But again, what's in it for the company to offer a free service? What are the security measures for your financial information? This is important to know for any accounting system. What does the paid system offer? So how much are you going to be able to do? And then they own your free account and you're at the company's mercy. So they may want to just, reduce your file size and maybe not let you have access to older years in your accounting system. You might lose all that data. When I tried this free account with one of the companies that offers a free accounting system. I was playing around with it a little bit, and I tried to create a vendor. And when I inputted the information, yeah, it was totally fine. I could input their email information, everything like that. But I wasn't able with the free system. I don't know if I could on the pay system, but with the free system, I couldn't allow myself to depict that vendor as a 1099 vendor. So when you're a business owner and you pay anybody for services or for rent, you have to, if they fall under certain requirements, you have to send them a 1099 at the end of the year. As therapists, we're used to getting 1099s, but I don't know if many of you know that as a business owner, there are sometimes you might have to send out 1099s. QuickBooks is a system that keeps track of that 1099 system for you. But I wasn't able in this free system to be able to depict that vendor that I had was a 1099 vendor. So it's just an example of something that I was limited to do in the free system. Okay, there's a question. Can bookkeeping be provided to accountants at the end of the year so that they can only do the taxes? So theoretically, yes, you can give your accountant an Excel spreadsheet even at the end of the year. If most bookkeeping systems, though, you're going to pay a monthly fee. So yeah, you could wait till the end of the year to do that accounting. But you should have some kind of system to be able to hand the accountant an income statement and a balance sheet. When I get that question that says, yes, technically you could hand your accountant something at the end of the year, but accounting is not only for doing taxes. Accounting is being able to know your numbers throughout the year. Plus, I can't tell you how many people I've met with that are like, oh, the year ended, now I got to think about taxes. And it just feels like this dread, and there's procrastination, which I'm very familiar with. And it's just like not a pleasant time to think about, I've got to get all this stuff ready for my taxes. If you're doing it throughout the year, what you're actually giving to your accountant is relatively easy if you're working in your books throughout the year. Okay, I just want to go over that. I have nothing against Excel. I absolutely love Excel. I really do. But Excel is not an accounting system. And if you keep track, I just wanted to kind of go over this for my Excel users. If you keep track of your business income and expenses through Excel, schedule only, do not include your personal expenses or withdrawals of any kind. So there should be 0 in that Excel spreadsheet of any personal expenses. And that includes personal draws. So if you take money out of your account for, like, you're paying yourself or personal draws, owner's draw, that should not be part of your income statement on your Excel spreadsheet. Okay. Can I make my life easier as a business owner with an accounting system? So I am not going to guarantee that it's going to be easier from the get-go, because there is a steep learning curve. But you will have peace of mind. And it just kind of goes to the overall saying that really having systems in place overall make life much, much easier. And that is true with accounting. But like I said, it's not going to be easier from the get-go, but it will be easier later. And most accounting systems have the feature where you, maybe not necessarily free, but have the feature that you will be talking with your bank. QuickBooks is an example, talks with the bank, but most accounting systems have it where they are matched with your bank accounts and maybe even your credit cards, so that there's communication about the financial transactions back and forth. And you are, well, not back and forth, it's only one way, from the bank to your accounting system. And you're recording that. And so that is easier because you are not doing all that manual entry. I know a lot of people have a lot of transactions during the month. So when you are able to just have it filtered over into your accounting system, it's so much easier not inputting all of that activity manually. What are the most important features that an accounting system should provide? So I'm going to go over what reconciling means in a minute, but my key system, the key factor that I look for is, can I reconcile my bank accounts with an accounting system? I'm going to go over it in a minute, but basically reconciling is making sure that what the bank says is what your accounting system says you have. Can I download my information, and can I do it securely? So can I have the bank's transactions imported into my accounting system, and is that safe and secure? Prepares balance sheet and an income statement. Again, I really want to harp on the fact that most people without any kind of accounting system don't have a balance sheet. All right. And a balance sheet is really important. So is my accounting system preparing both for me? Keeps track of vendors and customers. This is really key for me because I want to know my history with my customers and my vendors. If you provide a number of different services and you want to keep track of that, you can maybe play with that with your customers in terms of grouping your customers. If you want to know how much one insurance company is paying you versus another, you can get that information through SimplePractice as well. But you can also set up customers of different insurance companies, as well as vendors. Keeping track of vendors is really important. I have a lot of different companies that I work with for my continuing ed, and I forget, sometimes they offer these packages where I get like a whole year subscription of unlimited continuing ed, but I have so many different companies I work with, I forget which ones I've done the unlimited for that year. And so I have it all in my accounting system. So I just go to the vendors. I go to my income statement. I see, okay, what do I have for continuing ed? And then I go to that vendor and I see, okay, this is how many people I've paid. Now, with the vendors, I also want to keep track of who are my 1099 vendors. I'm going to show you a little bit more about how QuickBooks does that as well. How do you recommend tracking payments to ensure things are getting paid? So the beauty of an accounting system is being able to track your payments by vendor. You can't do that in Excel. Excel is I mean, you might have line items for the different vendors that you're paying, but for the most part, it's just the different categories of expenses. So you're inputting your bills into a system, you're paying your bills, it keeps track, an accounting system keeps track of who you've paid and how much. And then, of course, you're reconciling your bank account to make sure that things really did get paid. Okay, this is just something that I wanted to, it's just a quick snapshot of a QuickBooks account. It's a sample company. It's called Craig's Design and Landscaping. And I just wanted to show you a quick snapshot from a QuickBooks Online account. This is the vendor section, and you can, up above this part is where you can input all of their information. But I just wanted to show you under additional information, there's this line item that says business ID, social security number. So that is the company's tax ID number. And it says here, track payments for 1099. This is where you can check that box. If hopefully you do have their W-9, you can also input their tax ID number there. You can also, with QuickBooks, many systems offer this though, but with QuickBooks, I know for sure, you can actually upload, attach their W-9 to your QuickBooks account. So you can take it off of your computer and put it into your vendor information. And why is this important? Well, it's important because you have to know who you have to send 1099s to. There are a lot of rules about who you have to send 1099s to. It has to be over a certain amount. It depends on how that person has been paid as to whether or not you're subject to sending it out or somebody else, and like the credit card company or something. But there are a lot of rules to keep track of. That is all kept track of by QuickBooks. It does take some setup, but that is all tracked there. I just also want to point this out that this add attachment is really, really helpful for your expenses as well. All of your documentation is right there in your QuickBooks Online account. It's all right there, so that if you were audited and if they were to say, show me this transaction, you don't have to go searching everywhere either for the actual receipt or a scan of the receipt. It's all right there in your QuickBooks account. You can just point right to that. Okay, what's the simplest way to keep track of deductible expenses and income so I don't have to get it all together at the end of the year for tax season? The best way is to have an accounting system, and it can be a simple accounting system. I'm going to go over the different options. So it's all right there. And because I'm going to suggest a system of doing that on a monthly basis, you don't have this humongous to-do list at the end of the year during tax season. You can actually have peace at tax season. How do you recommend keeping income separated by state? So this really does depend on your system, but I really wanted to answer this question because most therapists who are licensed to practice in other states than the state that their main home state, are not keeping track of it by state. And it's not that you need to necessarily pay double the state taxes for the income that you're making let me just take California, for example. So California has this rule that even if you're licensed to practice in other states, you record all of your income with California. Then you deduct any taxes that you've paid for other states. But that does also say you may have to file state tax returns in other states. So if you are licensed, like I'm in California, if I were licensed to practice in Arizona, I've got to keep track of what my Arizona income is in order to know. I'm just going to choose Arizona, but any state that does require state income taxes, I might have to file in that state. Keeping your income separated by state is not easy, especially if you work for a company that pays you, and they pay you a certain amount, you deposit that amount, but they don't necessarily split it up. There are ways you can do that with SimplePractice. I think, I'm not positive about that, but I know for sure you can do it in different ways with an accounting system. Okay, there's certain things that I might say, all right, I think you're pretty sophisticated. You could probably still do your tax return, even though you have a Schedule C, you have a sole proprietorship. You could probably still do your tax returns by yourself. You understand what's deductible, what's not. I'm fine with you doing TurboTax, but all bets are off when you have an S corporation. When you have an S corporation, you absolutely have to have an accountant on board. Your accountant is going to set you up with payroll, and you have to have payroll in order to be an S corp and to do it correctly. So you have to be taking a salary, and what that salary is the rule is that you have to have a reasonable salary, as the IRS says. But what that reasonable salary is you need guidance from your accountant. So if you are an S corp, you absolutely it's my deal breaker. You have to have an accountant on board. I do not want you doing that on TurboTax. Also, as an S corp, you have to file annually an 1120S. So that's a separate tax return. It's an informational return, but it is a separate tax return. The other deal breaker is if you have a group practice. I really want you to have an accountant if you have a group practice. There's too many moving parts with a group practice, and I mean, if employees is a high litigation area, having independent contractors is a high litigation area as well. So I want you fully protected with that group practice and have an accountant as an advisor. What are the basics about reconciling accounts? Okay, so if I got to choose only one accounting activity that I think is the most important, it's reconciling. And that's reconciling every single month. So anybody that's worked with me who's a therapist knows that when I talk about reconciling, the reconciliation difference from month to month might be like $5, but I will not let them just say, okay, finish my reconciliation and just adjust it by $5, because I want it down to zero, because $5 could mean the income could be off by this amount and the income could be off by this amount. One time I had a difference of like $100 or something. I don't remember what it was, but I was doing this person's books. I said, no, we're not going to reconcile just the $100. And it turns out they were $40,000 off this way and an equal amount minus $100 off this way. So reconciling basically means that whatever the bank says you have is what is in your accounting system. So let's just say the bank says that you have $1,000 in your bank account, and your accounting system says at the end of the month, and your accounting system says you have $900 in your bank account. Well, a reconciliation is going to show, yes, there was a timing difference, that you wrote a check for $100 that has not yet cleared the bank, but now we know that, okay, everything is accounted for correctly. You have full and complete accounting system because you're reconciling to your various accounts from the bank. That includes, you can do and should do reconciliations with any credit cards as well. So what's a daily strategy to implement to prevent overwhelm with billing and accounting? My best daily strategy is just simply to do it regularly. So for billing, this is separate from accounting, but I'm just going to put a plug in for billing. For billing, it's so easy with SimplePractice. With SimplePractice, I literally have, well, I had a rule that I couldn't bill them that day until I finished my notes, but now I do my notes in session, and I literally click create invoice and bill them that day. So you should be doing and up to date with your billing every day, if not every week, but make sure it's really you have a system where you're not getting overwhelmed with prior billing. And the same goes with accounting. If you are regularly doing your, you get monthly bank statements, let's do monthly reconciliations. Let's monthly be in the numbers. Let's print income statements for the month before to know how much you're going to save. Remember, I want you saving 40% of your net income for taxes and retirement. So you got to know your numbers in order to be able to transfer that. So just stay current. Okay, why does Edie love QuickBooks Online? Oh, so many reasons. But in the interest of time, I'm just going to highlight a few. Okay, so this, if you go on QuickBooks Online, you will see that these are the different QuickBooks Online products that they offer. There is one that's right here that's not being shown because it's not technically a QuickBooks Online account. It's called QuickBooks Self-Employed. And I just want to explain why I am not putting that on here. And the reason is because I like QuickBooks Self-Employed, but I don't love it. And the reason I don't love it is because you can't reconcile accounts and you can't print a balance sheet. So it's basically whatever you are allowed to do on the sole proprietorship, whatever your tax return is, that kind of mimics your tax return. The one feature, though, that QuickBooks Self-Employed does have that is phenomenal is you can do they will figure out your estimated tax payments in QuickBooks Self-Employed. These other packages do not. It doesn't matter what my topic is with this Ask an Accountant series, I always get questions about estimated tax payments. So that is a pretty awesome feature with QuickBooks Self-Employed. But if you are either with a CPA or you're getting some kind of accounting assistance, the estimated tax payments is not as complicated as you may think. So I have in all of my meeting with therapists since January of 2022, when I started this series with SimplePractice, I don't think I've ever recommended any of these other products. The product I use is Plus, but I'm a QuickBooks Pro advisor, so they give me a Plus account. But Simple Start is totally fine for what you need. Now, if you were to go to this website right now, they would give you a 30-day free trial. And then this is the promotion they have right now, but this is promotion they've had for a long time. I don't know that they changed this at all, but they will give you 3 months at 50% off. I can offer you a larger discount. I can offer you 30% off as a QuickBooks Pro advisor for the next year, for the first year, after a free trial. But many times people email and say, can you give me that code? It's not really a code. We need to kind of work together. I need to know if this is the right thing for you, as well as I'm listed as your accountant when you get that discount. So if I'm going to list you as my accountant, if I'm going to be listed as your accountant, I want to make sure that this is the right thing for you and that we're doing it correctly. So it's not a slam dunk that I can just give you a code. I have to invite you and yada, yada. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know that Simple Start is absolutely fine. I think that would be fine for you. Now, that's not including if you are a group practice, okay? That would be an example where you might need one of these other packages. I just wanted to highlight that when I said hire experts, I really do mean hire experts in terms of you want people in QuickBooks who really know what they're doing, because this is just a picture from this sample company, but this little briefcase and the accountant's tools show that I have some tools as a QuickBooks accountant that the normal user, the small business owner user, does not have. So I can do some reclassifying of transactions. I have some different report options. I can do some debits and credits that and writing off of invoices and things. So you know, that's for having an expert. Now I hope this is my next slide. Oh, I did want to let you know that this is the slide. You will be given the slides as well as the recording here today. But this is the website that you could find an accountant. They have you put in your zip code. I don't know that that's super necessary. You do want somebody in your state, though, but I would imagine. But you can find a QuickBooks accountant and see how they work. I don't know their policies. We all have different policies. Okay, I just wanted to summarize that there are, since I've been working with a lot of therapists, I kind of put people in two camps. So camp one is they want full control over managing their books, and they want me to train them to work in QuickBooks. Now, I am not training them to be a bookkeeper. QuickBooks, one of the main reasons that I love QuickBooks for therapists is because it is very non-accountant friendly. It is not about debits and credits. I never say debits and credits when I'm teaching QuickBooks online to business owners. It's all form generated, but again, it does take some learning. But we do trainings. I teach you how to work in your books. In October, I will be offering a QuickBooks Bootcamp. I'm going to be putting that together. But don't be shocked if you're pretty sure you want full control over your books and managing your books. And we go through the training and you're like, oh, this is not my cup of tea. I can't tell you how many people outside of therapy practice that, like I teach business owners QuickBooks. And so many times I teach them QuickBooks because they really want to be in their books themselves. And then they're like, oh, let me just hire you to do it, which is totally fine too. So that brings me to the second camp. And that is where you want a support team to assist you with the heavy lifting work of managing the books. Work is done one-on-one still, but you're involved, but not necessarily learning the system. You're just watching the process. Now, that's how I work. I like to meet with my therapists. I do all my thing. I share my screen. I work in QuickBooks. I'm showing them exactly what I'm doing. I'm asking lots of questions. We're downloading invoices. We're putting them in the system. We're working one-on-one. That's not how a lot of QuickBooks advisors work. You just hire them as the accountant. They do the work. They'll ask you questions, through email or whatever their process is. And then some of them may be the ones preparing your tax return, or some of them just might be offering QuickBooks. But just to talk about CPA services really quickly, because I know I want to get to little live questions. But CPA services, a lot of CPA firms that are larger CPA firms now are not working with small accounts, right? And then there are other CPAs who are working, who demand that they are involved in the bookkeeping aspect during the year, because they want to make sure it's done right, and they're preparing tax returns. I have some CPA friends who only do tax returns for the people where they manage their books as well. So the benefit of that, though, is that it's all in one place, and so you don't have to then scramble to kind of find a tax preparer as well. Okay, so that's just my information to meet with me. You may have heard earlier talks of mine where I had a different website, but I'm trying to simplify my life a little bit. And I just have the one website now. So let's get to live questions, Cheyenne.
Let's get to live questions. Before we start into the actual Q&A section, Edie, a lot of people are interested in your boot camp. Is there a way for them to sign up for that October boot camp that you can share?
Yes, if they go to ediegardner.com, they can, I'm pretty sure.
I'll paste the link to the site,
yes.
But I can make sure that people get into contact with you.
But you know what? Even if you can't do it through ediegardner.com, but I'm pretty sure you can. You might be signing up as a SimplePractice partner, but just tell me why you're coming to see me. I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to transition that old website over, and I had everything on that old website. But in any event, you can send me an email at that edg@att.net.
Perfect. I'll paste your email. And Ruth, we're ready for questions. Okay. We have our first one from David. Can you talk about the problems of HIPAA compliance and accounting?
Yes, absolutely. So QuickBooks Online is not, or QuickBooks period, is not HIPAA compliant. So what does that mean? That means is that you cannot send out invoices securely. You cannot you should not be putting your counseling clients' names into QuickBooks Online as a customer. I can tell you what I do, but I don't recommend this for others. It's just because I'm a nerdy accountant that what I do is I like to keep track of my SimplePractice clients in my QuickBooks account. But I do that by I make SimplePractice as my main customer, and then I have sub accounts, sub customers who I just have their initials, and I track it. I track it by invoice. I'm not necessarily recommending that unless you're kind of like to be a control freak like I do. But it really did save me. It really did save me because I inputted the invoices into my QuickBooks system, even though there was zero identifying information. I had a problem where I was billing incorrectly in SimplePractice. It was all user error. I clicked for my new clients. I clicked the wrong thing, and I said, "Oh, charge them." I charged them separately, and I didn't. And I needed them to charge a Stripe account, and that was an example where if I hadn't been doing my monthly reconciliations, I might not have been able to go back to that client. I know I wouldn't have been able to go back to that client and say, "Hey, I've been counseling you all year, and I haven't billed you at all. Can I bill you for all your services?" So fortunately, I found the error that month, and I had to go back to 4 sessions, but you cannot have, I don't know of an accounting system. I might be wrong about this, but I don't know of an accounting system that is HIPAA compliant. So you don't want any identifying information in there. Now, on the therapist, with the books that I've worked with on therapists, it's not necessary to do what I just said about the sub-customers and all that. All they do is when SimplePractice deposits money into the bank account, that bank account transaction flows over into QuickBooks, and I literally just put it to counseling income. That I just recorded as counseling income, and it's a piece of cake like that. I was going to say one other thing. What was I going to say? Oh, if you do take insurance and you want to track it by insurance, you could create customers that have like, maybe Anthem, Blue Cross, and Cigna or whatever as your customers in QuickBooks Online. But that's all taken care of for you in SimplePractice. So I don't think it's necessary either. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you, Edie.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go to our next question from Shoba. Sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. Is there an accounting system that can track various sliding scale rates and packaging of sessions?
So you can create different rules within QuickBooks. You can create different products and services. So you could have a service package that offers a certain rate, and that could be, a sliding scale rate. There are ways to kind of do that. The packaging of sessions kind of gets a little difficult. I think with that question, if you want to email me, I can maybe zero in on what exactly you'd like to do. It's possible, but it's a little bit more complicated than it sounds. Now, I do want to just do a plug here, though, about that sliding scale rate. I just want to go over the fact, because I get this question all the time. If you offer a sliding scale, you cannot deduct what you should have gotten, like full fee. Let's say you have $100 and you got $40 because it was sliding scale. You cannot deduct that $60 on your tax return, because that was a reduction of what you got. But you're only paying income on that $40 too. So I'd really love to know why you want to do sliding scale rates and packaging of sessions within an accounting system. I'd love to know more about why you want to do that, because I think you can get there. Otherwise, if you're a SimplePractice customer, I think you would want to stay with that system to do that.
All right. Next question from Gina. I'm just beginning and only have a couple of clients. When do you recommend starting this?
Yeah, it's totally fair question. With only a few clients, it's really great to kind of have a system in place as you grow. I really do believe in if you build it, they will grow. So now with a couple clients, you're probably doing a lot of marketing to try and get more. So I don't want to take your focus away from that, but it also might be a good time to kind of learn a system like QuickBooks or some accounting system. So I highly recommend, no matter how many clients you have, keep track of it. But I think you could probably advance beyond Excel because there's so many things you can really have in place. And then it's just a slam dunk when you just start adding more clients. So in the grand scheme of things, what I showed you, that price of QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Self-Employed is less than the $30 a month. I mean, their prices could go up, but right now it's $30 a month, and in the without a discount. And in the grand scheme of things, I really believe that is so worth it, and it's just really worth it for what you get. So if you have the bandwidth to be able to concentrate on building the system now, I think you'll be happy when you have more clients and a fuller practice that you might not have the bandwidth to dedicate to not having the system already in place.
Okay, next question comes from Carmel. My accountant says that I don't need to give a vendor a 1099 if they are an S Corp for taxes. Is that true?
That is true. So remember how I said that there are certain situations where you do have to send a 1099 and you don't? That's why you really do need, one of the reasons why you need their W-9, because if they check that box that says they're sole proprietorship, yep, they're getting a 1099 probably. But if they check that box as an S Corp, they are not. So that is absolutely true. Also, that's true, not just an S Corp, but a C Corp. But remember, this is for services. So if you're sending if you're buying products and something, it's just, you're not even worried about 1099. It's just for services. That W-9 is really important, though, to have in your system, because if you're audited and you say, how come you didn't, they say to you, how come you didn't send them a 1099? They say, oh, well, they told me I didn't need to send that to them. Do you know how many times I've heard that? Oh, they don't need me to send a 1099. It's like the IRS is then going to say, okay, well, show us your proof that you don't need to send it to them. And you say, okay, here's their W-9, and they check the box and they sign the W-9 that said they are an S Corp. So that is absolutely true.
Next question from Zachary. As a therapist, am I able to count my own therapy as a business expense? Can you talk a little bit more about deductions we should consider as mental health providers?
So I'd really encourage, I get this question a lot too. I'd really encourage you to check out my February of this year and February of last year. Might have been March of this year, but yeah, it might have been March of this year and February of last year. Those were my two webinars that I did on about taxes. The one last year in February was a little more general about taxes, but this one in March, I think, of this year was really about write-offs. And I think I addressed this issue in both of those, though. So you're going to hear a variety of opinions from the tax professionals. My opinion is that it is not deductible as a business expense for your own therapy, even though we massively encourage therapists to have their own personal therapy. It's a medical expense. So if you are one and it's only under very limited circumstances you're able to deduct your medical expenses as part of your business. Very limited, few people can do that. You cannot have access to any other health insurance program in any other way. Like a spouse, if they have the ability to offer you that through their job, you cannot have health insurance, but it's considered a medical expense. So, but that's not the same if you pay for consultations, maybe even supervision. But if your therapy is therapy, no, it's not deductible, and it's a medical expense. Just like a doctor wouldn't be able to deduct his medical expenses, even though we really encourage doctors to go to the doctor themselves. Same thing with therapy. Can I talk a little bit more about deductions? So that's like a huge area, and we dedicated a whole topic for that March one. So I'd really encourage you to check that out. It's on YouTube under SimplePractice.
Yep, I just pasted the link. And I think we have time for one more super quick question.
Sure.
And this one comes from Olivia. I put everything on a credit card. When using QuickBooks, do you line item everything that was put in on the credit card?
No, I actually have a credit card in QuickBooks. I actually have a credit card account that I linked to my credit card. And so it downloads all of my credit card transactions. So when I actually pay the bill, it's really just like a transfer of money from the account, the checking account, to the credit card against the liability. So that's wiped out there, but your expenses are recorded as you incur them, because the credit card company and QuickBooks are talking to each other. So no, I know you can do that. I know some people that do, but it's actually more accurate and easier just to have it all downloaded into your QuickBooks system. You can do that with a credit card.
All right. Well, we are here at the end, but good news. Well, a couple of things of good news. The first is, of course, the webinar will be shared to everyone tomorrow. So thank you again so much, Edie. Everyone really enjoys all of your content, all of your valuable information. I'm sure you'll get a ton of emails tomorrow. But yeah, keep an eye out for the webinar recording. As always, it's posted on our YouTube channel along with any of Edie's past webinars with us. And then we do have our next webinar with Edie coming up next month. This one's going to be about personal finances. So if you have any questions related to that with your private practice, definitely be sure to join. Edie's going to be covering all of your questions there, and I'll paste the link for that down below as well. That one's going to be on August 17th. And then as another reminder, be sure to subscribe to Pollen. This is our weekly news. You get the latest industry news. We have our webinars there. We have a ton of resources, and you can access that on simplepractice.com/pollen. And again, Edie, and to everyone viewing here live today, we just wanted to say thank you so, so much. Another incredible webinar, and we're so grateful to have you here and just share all of your knowledge with us. So thank you, Edie.
Thanks, Cheyenne. And thank you, Ruth.